Greetings everyone. Welcome to our new initiative, Ethics in 10 Minutes, a micro learning initiative. Dear students, in this initiative, we will discuss all the key concepts of ethics. Moreover, we will also discuss previous year questions of GS paper 4. Apart from that, we will also solve case studies within 10 minutes. So, save your time and strengthen your preparation. In today's video, we will discuss the basic concept of ethics, that is, what is ethics? Right? So, see, before knowing about ethics, you must know about the origin of word ethics. So you can see that the word ethics comes from Greek word ethika, and ethika comes from substantive ethos. Right? Both are Greek words, ethika and ethos. See, some of the standard books have directly mentioned that ethics comes from ethos, but the reality is ethics comes from ethika, and ethika comes from substantive ethos. Now, what is the meaning of ethos? Ethos simply means character, customs, usages, habits. This is the meaning of ethos. Now, ethics is also called moral philosophy, right? And you must be knowing ethics is part of philosophy, and it is called moral philosophy, right? See, the word moral comes from Latin word mors. Right? Word moral comes from Latin word mors, and it also means customs or habits. So, literally, you can see that the meaning of ethos and mors are same, customs or habits. This was all about the origin of word ethics and moral. Now, if you have to define ethics in simple terms, you can define it. You can write, in simple terms, ethics is the ethics is the science of human conduct that deals with ethics is the science of human conduct that deals with what ought to be done rather than what is done. So you have to focus in three parts, right? Science of human conduct, ethics is science of human conduct first, deals with what ought to be done second, and third, what is done, means rather than what is done. So first, why ethics is called science of human conduct? What is the meaning of science? See, when we talk about science, science does not mean, or it is, science is not restricted only to laboratory or experiments. When we talk about science, science simply means systematic and reasoned study of any field of knowledge that is based on logic, observation, and general principles. Right? That is the simple meaning of science. In that sense, ethics is also science. Why? Because there are certain principles that must be followed in science, in ethics. Right? Again, we also apply our logic. For example, as I said, it deals with what ought to be done. When we think, what should we do? Right? What should we do? Whether it is right or wrong, we apply our logic, we apply our reason. In that sense, ethics is science. Science of what? Science of human conduct, and rather than what is done. So the focus of ethics is not what is done, but what should be done, what ought to be done. That is the simple definition of ethics, right? See, apart from that, some philosophical perspective, right? So from philosophical point of view, as I said, ethics is part of philosophy. So philosophy says that ethics is that branch of knowledge which deals with moral principles guiding human behavior, right? So philosophy says ethics is branch of knowledge which deals with moral principles guiding human behavior, right? Some scholars or philosophers, for example Aristotle, he says ethics is the science of highest good for men. So he also repeats the term science. Why science? Already I said, we apply our logic, reason. There are certain principles that must be followed in ethics, right? There are certain code of conduct, right? Apart from that, for example Immanuel Kant, he says ethics is the study of moral duty, moral obligation, right? Mahatma Gandhi, for example Mahatma Gandhi, he says ethics is the basis of all that is good. Means anything that is good or all that is good has the basis of ethics. Simple. He also says that without ethics there can be no progress. That is clear. For example, if there is a civil servant who is unethical, corrupt, right? People in that area will not see any kind of progress. If political leaders are corrupt, they are unethical, they don't have ethics, we cannot see progress, right? So this was all about philosophical perspective of ethics. Now, standard definition of ethics. See, ethics can be defined in different or by different definitions, and this is a definition of ethics, right? But the definition should maintain that standard, and the definition should be meaningful definition, right? You cannot write anything, or you can use very general terms, right? Maintain that standard, because UPSC has its own standard, right? So simply when you have to write standard definition, you can write that ethics is the science of human conduct that determines conduct that determines what is right or wrong, right or wrong, good or bad, right? Good or bad, by the application of reason and moral principles, right? That is the standard definition of ethics. I have already explained why ethics is called science of human conduct. Now that determines what is right or wrong, good or bad, by the application of reason and moral principles. So where there is reason and principles, obviously it is part of science, right? What is right or wrong, good or bad? So see, generally students confuse and they use these terms interchangeably, right? And this is a mistake, right? See, when we talk about good, good is based on values, emotions, well-being, right? Good boy, nice girl, right? Bad man, these are based on values. Or for example good conduct, bad conduct, right? These are based on values, emotions, well-being. When we talk about right, it is generally based on duties, law, rules, and general or moral principles, right? And what is the end of law, rule, or duty? Always good. The end of any law, rule, or duty is always good. And you must remember that right is always subordinate to good, because the end of good is, the end of right is good. In that sense, right is always subordinate to good. So that's all in this video. Thank you.